This is David Mould. I'm reading from my book Postcards from Stanland, Journeys in Central Asia. This excerpt is entitled Central Asia Frequent Flyer. When the Soviet Union broke up, the national airline Aeroflot suffered the same fate. From Baku to Bishkek, the governments of cash-strapped new republics seized the aircraft sitting on the tarmac, repainted them in the new national colours, and hoped they could round up enough spare parts to keep them flying. National airlines have since modernized their fleets, adding Boeings and Airbuses for long-haul flights, but Soviet-era planes are still the standard on most domestic and regional flights, and travellers still struggle with bureaucracy at ticket offices and airports. In the early years after independence, foreigners had to pay the, quote, foreigner's price for tickets. It was usually at least 50% higher than the regular fare and often had to be paid in Western hard currency. The only advantage, as far as I could tell, was that you entered the terminal through a separate foreigner's entrance, waited, usually alone, in an area with an overpriced souvenir shop, had your passport inspected multiple times, and then were escorted to the plane by a uniformed official. At least you could choose your seat and stow your hand luggage before the other passengers boarded. Special treatment had nothing to do with being nice to foreigners. It was a holdover from Soviet times, when foreigners were segregated for undisclosed security reasons. In July 1998 in Kyrgyzstan, I needed to fly from Osh in the south to the capital Bishkek. The Kyrgyzstan Airlines ticket office was inconveniently located in a suburb, a 20-minute cab ride from downtown Osh. The agent told me she could not sell me a ticket. "Only Gulmira's authorized to sell tickets to foreigners," she announced, "and she's at the airport today. You will have to come back tomorrow." I asked if I could buy a ticket at the airport. "That is impossible," said the agent. "Tickets are only sold here." I went to the airport anyway and found Gulmira, who sold me a ticket at the foreigner's price with a small commission. It was cheaper than another trip to the ticket office. A decade after independence, foreigners' prices and entrances had mostly disappeared, but buying tickets could still be a travel adventure. Although all international carriers and some national airlines offered online booking, most tickets were still bought from travel agents or airline offices. In 2010, I needed a ticket from Astana in Kazakhstan to Georgia's capital, Tbilisi. The only direct flight was on Air Company SCAT, a Kazakhstan regional airline with a few international flights, and a booking service to match its ill-chosen name. Although several travel agents displayed the SCAT sign in their windows, none could sell me a ticket. It was unclear why. Either SCAT did not issue electronic tickets or its computer system wasn't working. I ended up at the large central ticket agency to buy a paper ticket. Several agents were serving customers, and I joined the shortest line. When my turn came, the agent said she could not help me. "Only agents 1, 3, and 5 can sell SCAT tickets," she informed me. "But you're number 5, I protested. "There's a chair missing. I'm number 6, she replied. It was back to the line until agent number 1 was available. Soviet-era airports were not built to handle large numbers of arriving passengers, and certainly not passengers with passports. There was usually a long line at the 1 or 2 foreign citizens' passport booths, and the line can sometimes turn ugly. Until the late 1990s, Dushanbe, the capital of Tajikistan, was not on the business and certainly not the tourist itinerary. A 5-year-long civil war meant that the airport was periodically closed for fighting, about as routine in Tajikistan as closed for construction anywhere else. With the return of peace, if not prosperity, the airport was open, if not exactly ready for business. The arrivals hall, a ramshackle building separated by a few city blocks from the main airport terminal, had limited staff and a single baggage carousel. When 3 flights, including mine, arrived within a half-hour period, The fragile infrastructure was quickly overwhelmed. Only one passport booth for foreigners was open, and it took the officer at least 5 minutes to review and stamp each passport. And there were many foreigners. Most of the passengers on my flight from Almaty were Kazakhstan citizens. Occasionally a policeman climbed over the barrier, waded into the crowd, and pushed some people around, but it seemed to make no difference. Apparently the only way to get ahead was to slip a few bills to the policeman, who would go into the booth and have the officer process the passport while the person at the booth waited. The foreigners' line became more unruly when a group of Tajiks, tired of waiting in their equally slow-moving nationals' line, decided to join us, but at the front, not the back of the line. People clambered over barriers and passed papers back and forth. Meanwhile, baggage from all 3 flights was arriving on the single carousel. All bags had to pass through a scanner, however it was not connected to a computer, so no one actually inspected what was inside. 2 airport staff collected baggage tags but didn't match them to the bags you were carrying. My trip from Almaty to Dushanbe had taken 4 hours, a 2-hour flight and a 2-hour ordeal in the arrivals hall. Postcards from Stanland, Journeys in Central Asia by David Mould, is published by the Ohio University Press, Ohio Swallow, that's one word, .com, and available from independent bookstores, Amazon, and other online booksellers.